Did you want waffles?
Good morning, people of the internet, and welcome to Warlocks and Waffles. We are your hosts.
Greetings and bienvenue. Hunter, or should I say, the hunted. How was your weekend?
My weekend was, as you would expect, the weekend before Halloween. I rode roller coasters, I saw scary things, I went to a party and drank jello shots through a pile of whipped cream that was also alcoholic. It was an interesting endeavor.
I also had a very interesting Halloween weekend. I took a small butterfly house to house and had them collect treats from them. Just take them and keep going.
Just
And then
take
I went
them.
home.
Like a
dragon,
like a dragon taking things to its heart.
Yes. And then I went home and I took a nap, and it was very, very, very late, like 8:30 or 9.
So late. You're such a creature of the night.
I'm a creature of the night.
Welcome to Warlocks and Waffles, a TTRPG morning show. We are here. And in case you can't tell, we're in capes. Welcome to Warlocks and Waffles in capes. I decided that was the name of the episode moments before we went live, and I told Junie that, and he was like, okay.
I came around real fast. I was instantly against it and very for it very quickly. It was a very fast roller coaster ride. But I told Hunter, like, I was before I even turned on my camera, I was like, hey, I'm coming out today with a weird energy, heads up. And I turned on my camera and I was just in this cape.
And then me being me, I just went into the other room and grabbed my cape and put it on.
You know, as one does.
As one
Just
does.
go grab.
Who
grab my
doesn't
cape.
have a selection of capes to choose from at their house? This one is just a old, like, bad Halloween cape. But then I got this necklace out of like one of those like 25-cent like little turn things like forever ago,
That got
and just like attached it to the ends of it, and it elevates
That jazzes
it.
it up and makes it, it makes it not like as constricted as this Red Riding Hood cape that I my wife.
It's also nice and heavy, so like it makes sure that like this is going to stay here in the front because there's weight pulling it down, and I don't have to worry about it.
Now I'm looking around to see if I can steal something to make that happen on my end.
The rest of the show is you just like stitching a necklace onto your cape.
Yeah, just like doing crafts.
Well, welcome to a Halloween craft fair. Ooh.
If you're trying to elevate your cape, here's what you can do.
Welcome to Cape Advice Talk. This is where we give you all the advice on your capes and the various accoutrements. I don't know about you, Junie, and this is not related to our overarching theme, just something that I've noticed because I just said the word accoutrement for the second time this week. Apparently anytime I put on like some sort of accent or like some sort of character voice or anything like that, I think it's really funny to say accoutrement in the voice.
I say that in regular regular talking, and
I don't.
my
It's
friends would.
not my in my regular, like, my regular language. It is exclusively
In fancy
characters.
talk.
Yeah.
Mm. My friends would accuse me of using $5 words in $2 sentences. So if I said corridor or accoutrement, they would get very mad at me, and they were like, "Would just say stuff or accessories or just say hallway, idiot." And
That's
I'm like, "I don't.
that's a
It's
very
different."
it's a very good assessment though.
Mhm.
You absolutely do. It's $5 words, $2 sentences. I like that.
Mhm.
That's
Yep.
a good way of summing it up.
That's a free one, y'all. That one's free. It's
Um
$5 word, $2 but it's free to you.
I love expressions like that. Um they're just always good. My great grandma had a an expression that she would say, that she would say predominantly just to get people to shut up, because it sounds like it means something, and they would have to like sit there and think about what it means, and it absolutely doesn't. But the expression was, "It's a long road without a cow in it."
I love that.
It doesn't mean anything. It's just my great grandma being like, "I'm gonna say words, and you're gonna think they mean something because I'm old and I must have many years of wisdom." And it didn't. It was just nonsense words, and I love that. Um,
Yeah. That's that kind of energy. That's that energy where if it's just like you say it with confidence,
right,
people are just gonna be like, "Oh, this is obviously sage wisdom.
right.
This is obviously supposed to be like this." I fixed the
That's
clip
that
button,
the
so.
that's that never let them know your next soup energy.
Mhm.
Yeah. Uh,
I'm just hitting that clip button religiously today. I'm gonna be all over this clip button.
you finally got it back, and you're gonna take full
Oh yeah,
advantage of
I
that.
need to just yeah. I'm like, why don't I have multiple? I have multiple ways to program buttons to things,
Hmm.
whether it's my foot pedal or this stream deck. I'm like, let me just do this.
Hmm. My wife has just walked around the corner and gone, "Are you in a cape?"
What you should just say
Mhm.
no,
No,
no, I'm
I'm
not.
not in your cape. I'm in my cape. We both have capes.
Mine's clearly
There's
elevated.
so many capes in this house.
Hmm.
We are a cape household.
Oh, I apologize. We are a cape household. We wear capes in this house.
In this house, we wear capes.
We have an outline, y'all, and
I don't
this is all in the outline.
I don't appreciate the movie Incredibles pushing this no capes propaganda. We are a capes household here. Welcome to Warlocks and Waffles. I'm sure you can tell that this is a TTRPG morning show. Cuz what else could it possibly be? We do have an outline this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Junie, where
Mm-hmm.
on this comprehensive document would you like to start?
All right,
I
so
said start
there
really
was
weird.
yep, my
Where would
mic
you
was
like to
slowly falling
start?
away. It was so it was the welcome. I literally wrote Junie's dumb thing he wants to say, which was the hunt or hello hunter, or should I say the hunted? I've been thinking of that like for over a day. It was so dumb. I
Yeah,
was just
it
like, I'm gonna
shows.
say it, and it's gonna be
Yeah.
so good. Um, and then literally,
For those of you sitting at home, before we went live,
mm-hmm.
Junie was sitting there like trying to make the room be dark and couldn't get it to be dark, and was just like sitting there trying to look brooding. And he goes, "I have a thing I'm gonna say, and I've thought about it 50 times."
And you don't know how many voices. You don't know how many voices I did. Yeah, Rosie's in the chat. A whole day. Yes, at minimum. Because as soon as we were like, it was before I thought of a dumb Halloween bit, and then I was like, let's do a Halloween episode, and I was just like, well, all right, if I'm spooky, what do I say? Greetings and bienvenue, hunter, or should I say the hunted? And then I did it in a lot of different voices, some of which were problematic.
That's so good.
Um, but
Um,
it was really dumb.
do you ever get a line where you're like, this is a line I want to say in a game,
Mhm.
and I just don't have like a character to say it as, or like something like that? Because like
Yeah.
for me, there's this line, I there's this line that has been in my head for like forever, and I just have never had a reason to use it in a game. But the line is just, Let me explain something about this world you call home. And I've never had a reason to use that, but every once in a while I'll be like writing like a villain monologue, and I'm like, let me explain something. No, I can't. Just cross it off. It's not the right one. This one's not it. I have a whole like document of just things that I want a villain to say at some point. And just have never gotten around to using.
I instantly thought of a scenario that will fit in what we're doing today, because today we are we are talking about understanding. We're going to be talking about like horror tropes, building tension, and creating scary vibes. And then we're going to be shooting some spooky one shot ideas for people that they can run this, during this Halloween season. Some people did their spooky Halloween stuff this weekend. Some people are going to do it whenever they can find time, because it's a whole season. And even though media, and if you go into any store, it's been Christmas for a few weeks, this still can be fall time for you, and this can still be like, a spooky season. It doesn't
Here's the
have to
thing,
be that
man.
it's been Christmas for weeks.
Tim Burton created an excuse to have Halloween be from September through to the new year in the movie The Nightmare Before Christmas.
That
If you
movie,
just
we
fully
just had a
embrace
talk about
that
this.
movie and you're just like I'm not. It's not Halloween decorations. It's Halloween. It's a Nightmare Before Christmas decorations because it's almost Christmas time. And then you can just
I have
decorate
feelings. I
for
have feelings
one.
about this movie now. I just thought about it, and it was yesterday. I think it was yesterday. My wife said, "Is Nightmare Before Christmas a Halloween movie or a Christmas movie?"
The answer is yes.
And that's exactly what I said. I said yes, but then I thought about it, and it's a movie that some movies like, you know, change over time.
Hmm.
This movie has not necessarily changed itself, but the world has changed to make the movie make more sense, in that it went from, oh, we could watch it at Christmas time or Halloween time.
Hmm.
Now you watch it during Nightmare Before Christmas time,
Right.
because Christmas keeps coming earlier and earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now it's just, there's a window of time where it's just like, this is that season now.
Yes.
This is that
As
weird,
soon as it is not
spooky winter
summer.
season.
Yeah. As soon as it is
Yeah.
not
And
summer, it is Nightmare Before Christmas time.
correct.
Yeah.
And like Thanksgiving, people want to think whatever that. Yeah, okay. But Halloween was, that created a gap between that and Christmas. Whether or not you like observed Thanksgiving or
Hmm.
skipped it or started decorating before or after for Thanksgiving, like there was still a barrier in some way, shape, or form. Now it's like, I understand. Oh, they're gonna sell Christmas stuff to get rid of it off their shelf so that we can make room. That's
No,
one thing. No,
nobody
they're
respects
just full.
nobody respects the barrier that Thanksgiving was holding. Nobody respects that time frame anymore. It's just Christmas.
It's just, but it's not even Halloween though. Like it was weeks ago I saw Christmas things and I was
Right.
like,
Yeah.
"What?"
It's
So, yeah,
no nobody talks about
that's the first thing.
can I present can I present a hot take?
Oh, I thought unfortunately that was way later on in our like, doc here, and I feel like we've been slowly moving that bullet point up
Here's
way
the thing,
further,
man.
but go ahead. Yeah, go for it.
I've got a hot take. Nobody talks about the fact that the war on Christmas is not a war on Christmas. Christmas declared war on everything else, and has been slowly taking land from the other holidays, and nobody's talking about that. So that's my hot take.
I never hit that clip button faster. My finger was poised on it. I was like, "Ooh, Hunter, what are you gonna say?" Well,
Christmas
yeah,
Christmas
Rosie,
is
you
a
said it.
colonizer, says
Rosie,
Rosie.
as soon as you said like you started, and I was like, "Where are you going with this? Hold on," because you started going very like taking land, and I was like, "Okay, Hunter, watch
Oh
what you're
my
saying now.
goodness.
let's
Christmas is a
let's take this
colonizer.
slowly."
Put it on a bumper sticker.
Oh man, that's gonna
Uh,
be a that so many people are gonna take that different ways.
Yes.
What
Welcome to Warlocks and Waffles. Let's
are
let's
we
let's
again?
talk about stuff.
What are we
Um,
doing?
we're
What's
we're
what
we
are
are
we?
the
We're
we
a
are the
Christmas fan
only
cast.
TTRPG morning show. And you know how I know that we're the only one.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we're the only TTRPG morning show. One, nobody has come at us to like challenge us for that title.
Fight us,
Which is like
cowards.
open invitation.
Fight us.
If you ever want to issue a
Mm-hmm.
challenge, we're here.
Do it.
The reason that I know it's a that it's true is you sent us a screenshot. Let me pull it up here. A screenshot from the thingamajig. Where is it?
Wait, what are you? What are
Maybe
you?
maybe you
Now,
didn't and I'm dreaming it. I don't know.
what are
Um
you talking about?
Kill Every Monster.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say that later, but yeah.
When they put out their thing,
Mm-hmm.
it says in the write up that
Mm-hmm. I sent that right up. Yeah.
that it is a guest from the only TGRPG morning show.
The only 8 a.m. TTRPG morning
Yeah.
show. I was gonna say it on the end, but I was a guest on the Kill Every Monster podcast, and then I told Hunter, I was like, "Hey, your show is mentioned and linked on and boldly declared on an award-winning podcast as the only TTRPG morning show. They have a lot of listeners, and I told them, and I put it in like quotes, say, like put it in the italicized, and I was like, I don't know if they're gonna be able to get it or if it's just gonna say only. But he put the right emphasis on it when he said it. Yeah, Aram did a great job editing that episode because I know I was very nervous and rambled, and he made me sound semi-coherent. And I only say that because you could still tell how crazy excited I was. But
I
we talked about
remember
methods.
when you were like talking about like it was coming up that you were going to do it. And you were already so excited.
I
So
went with a page of notes. I went with a page of notes for that, and they were like, some people just show up, and I was like, yo, I've
they'd
been
never met
ready.
you before.
Yeah, I was like, I'm here. I am not. This is an amateur hour here.
Yeah, I
I'm
didn't come
ready
to
to
fuck
discuss
around.
methods.
The fact that it's methods, like obviously I knew it was going to be an in-depth thing for you. Cuz methods are for if anybody is watching this and they somehow don't know how obsessed you are with methods, um I'm shocked. I don't know how anyone has made it this far not knowing that about you. Um it is a core personality trait.
I felt I say it in the podcast. I love them because I misread the stat block. I misread the stat block, and there's methods, and then there's methods summoner variant,
Mhm.
and I thought that meant, oh, people can summon these like a
Mhm.
wizard or an evil whatever. It's actually there are methods that can summon other methods.
Mhm.
I took it as, oh, I can have things call these up whatever, like little bad guy minions. So
Well, I
whenever
mean,
I
to be
need
fair, you
bad guy,
can.
you can, but
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? I read that as like, oh, this is what these are for.
Right.
So I think they're the ultimate DM hack. DM hack. You can use methods to balance any encounter by sprinkling them in any setting. Just if you're in a swamp, bog witch, mud methods. If you're fighting a red dragon, they're gonna just surround it and beat it up. Magma methods. Just throw them in there. They explode. They change everything. Methods.
um
Anyway,
I
that's not what we're here for.
we're not at all. The I did like the line from the like the trailer for this episode where they're like methods methods seem like nature's mistake. It's like
Mm-hmm.
yeah, kind of. That's not our topic today.
No, I was
Need to
about to go
stop
into it, and we were
talking
like, we're
about
just gonna
it.
be talking about
Um
methods and elementals today, but
yeah.
no.
I'll listen through the whole episode and I'll have notes and we can do a whole methods episode on Friday. How about that?
Well, follow up. I know that there was so much I wanted to say that I didn't get in there, but anyway, yeah, we can do that. We'll have methods. Mephits Reloaded.
Memphis.
Um, but speaking of horrifying creatures, Mephits. No, we're not talking Mephits. We're talking like building tension and creating scary story vibes. And there's a lot that goes into this. We're gonna be talking about tropes, but also like consent and like
Mhm.
getting buy-in from everybody. It's not just like, oh, I'm gonna hit my table with whatever I feel like because I think this is gonna be scary. And it's gonna, you have to like know your party and
Mhm.
know like degrees of what you can like work with and also know yourself. You know what I mean? Like I know I have definitely like tackled something or attempted to tackle something thinking I'm gonna do it like this and then realize like it's not within my range or
Mm, mhm.
it just doesn't hit the same
Yeah.
way or like the setting doesn't let it hit the same way, you know what I mean? Or like Junie's famous for this, thinking something is funny or is going to hit one way and then realizing it is very depressing or scary after the fact when it's given in a greater context.
Junie,
So,
you are
yeah.
notorious for like
Yeah.
everybody can see it on your face that you're like, this is a funny haha moment, and we're like, this is a you've just said a very sad thing.
Yeah. Oh no. A lot of stuff. Oh man.
It
It's
happens.
definitely like it's a cry for help. But no. Hunter,
I've
do you
had
have
I've
any
had
favorite?
players I've had players call me out for like, "Oh, so you're working through this right now, huh?" And I'd be
Oh
like
yeah,
I'm like,
right?
"Oh, uh I
Oh,
guess,
those
like,
realization moments.
why?" And they're like, "Well, I mean, the last 3 villains we've faced have been like this sort of archetype." And I'm like, "Oh yeah.
When
Uh-huh.
you don't realize
I
it.
don't
Yup.
I didn't mean to. I'm sorry."
I definitely had like when I had the leaders of all of people in a campaign one time all get together at one point, and it's like you see the leader of this town and she's there and then she's over here, and I was like, did I make the mayors of all these separate towns strong, confident women? Huh. I didn't write it. It didn't write in. That's what
Right.
they didn't
You
write it
didn't
in
set out
genders. I
with
just
that
made
intent.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's just like, well, I know something about myself now. Like it was like
Yeah.
that moment of like, oh, well, here we go.
Yeah.
Um,
It happens.
That's not scary. Hunter, do you have any like horror tropes that are your favorites? That you know help build tension or just like our go-tos or when you really want to ramp it up. What do you got?
So for me, one thing that is very big for me is uh music. Like
Mm.
any sort of ambience is very important to me as a player, but also as a GM, because it helps me like stay in that like that mood of things. And there's a bunch of like I've used a lot of the same music over and over again across like all of my different games. And so I've started to be like, I'll start to know where I'm at in the like flow of these ambient tracks. And so I've started being able to like pace out the way I'm saying things so that they'll land at specific beats in the music and stuff. And so
Oh, that's good.
multiple times I've had situations where it's like you hear something move off in the like off somewhere in the dungeon, and the music is like and like drops at that moment, and I'll just watch my players be like, did you did you did you plan that, did you do it that way? And it's like, I don't always, sometimes I do, but like there's more to it. The music really helps me though just kind of stay in the moment and sort of uh keep moving. And as things change, it also gives me a sort of a cue from the music that it is like time to keep moving something forward. So instead of having it be a situation where it's just a like music playing in the background and I'm just sitting here, if the music suddenly like drops and we get intense and like the music is picked up, to me that also can serve as a cue of like, okay, we've been in this spot for a long enough time that the music thinks something should have happened. And
Ooh,
so I can be
that's good.
like we've been sitting here arguing about which direction we want to go in this hallway, and the dungeon music all of a sudden goes and just does something. I can then be like, uh as you guys are standing here arguing, you hear skittering from the side. Something opens over here. This thing happens, and
Mm,
then like
that's
be
good.
drop into stuff. And like not only using my own cues to choose what the music is going to be, but also allowing the music to slowly like not always but sometimes dictate what is happening as well for those beats. Ambient sounds are very, very important to me for my games. I love that extra level of immersion that comes from it. And I've had players who are like, I don't like the ambient music, and I'm like, what? Why?
I
Like
I've had some people that get distracted by it. I
yeah.
had some people that get distracted by it. I get very lucky
Mm-hmm.
if I do ambient music or, like, I have, like, just a playlist running. And this happens, like, everywhere in my life where I think because I also just can't turn off my brain and I hear all music going on at all
Mm-hmm.
times, um, what ends up happening is I try to, like, command a situation enough where people forget what's going on in the background, and then because I'm always listening, I pick up on the musical change or something like that, or they won't realize the music's changed or stuff like that, and then I'll realize, and then you realize how tense it is, and then I shut down, I quiet down, so then they hear the music again. It's almost like I call back attention to the thing that they realized was there the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like a luck thing because like I don't always control that. It's just but I'm always listening, so I'm still paying attention to it type of thing. That's really good, and I think that's a really good tool for people that struggle with pacing
Yeah.
because if you know how long a track is or something, and if you're trying to stick to a time limit
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of listen to the whole track or you get an idea of like, all right, this is this many minutes long. I know
Especially
that.
if you're running one shots where you're like, I need to make
Mhm,
sure I hit these points at these times. Build out a playlist for the thing
that's really
that
good.
is the length you need it to be. Like add some wiggle room here and there, but like if you're like, okay, I know that I need them out of the tavern by like within 45 minutes of like starting the session in order to
That's
make sure we hit all the
yeah.
things. Make sure that you have like tavern music set up for however much time you're going to need, and then like if you are running out of tavern music, you need to get them out of there. Just
That's a
having
really good secret way to put rails. You
mhm
know what I mean? It's like it's not like, "Oh, we're a slave to this, like, whatever I had written down," but it's a way to like, I think everybody can understand the sentiment of, "We gotta keep it moving."
mhm
There's a difference between, like, "I'm forcing you to do this, and we need to keep going," and then every when there you can tell the difference between a party that has a fire lit under them.
yeah.
When they, because I am 9 times out of 10 guilty of giving people too much freedom.
Mhm. Oh,
Where on the front end
absolutely the same way, yeah.
on the front end, I'm always like, "So, what do you think you're having for breakfast?" Or like, you know, like just like super open-ended questions and giving them time to think about because there's a lot of newer players.
Yeah.
So I don't wanna,
No,
you know what I
I
mean?
do the same thing because I'll constantly be like, "We're you're traveling, like,
Mhm.
you have a couple of days on the road, like, what would you guys be doing,
You're
in
at
that
this
time?"
tavern, they have whatever you wanna make, like, what do you think you would ask for? You know? Like,
Mhm.
let's see if they got it. Are you picky about your mushrooms au gratin? Like, you know, let's roll to see if this is to your taste. Like, it's really
Yeah.
dumb, and
I'm
I think that's a genius way to keep things
I'm running a,
flowing. That's really good.
I'm running a
That's a double tip.
I'm running a campaign for the SPG staff, so
Mhm.
the other like my coworkers that start playing, and so we've been like playing this game. We play like once a month, but we had our second session last week, and the in that session I was like I was getting ready to like wrap up the session. We're like moving towards the end. They had like gotten to the city that I wanted them to get to. We're gonna take them over to the like the tavern and get them a room and stuff. And I had them like walk into this tavern and had like gotten them in there, and it's all like this tiny tavern. I was like, this isn't going to be where they're going to stay. I'm going to give them like just a random a room or something like that, and like it'll be fine. I just had this NPC who was like this massive like half giant who was like the barkeep, who was just this kind of lumbering, like walks over, sets down a tray of drinks, like walks back behind the counter. I was like, I'm not going to put anything in here for them to interact with, like, because we're at the end of the session. Um, and immediately upon them like getting the drinks, one of my party members was like, "Ooh, I actually wanted a pina colada," and then one of the other people was like, "Ooh, I also want a pina colada," and I'm immediately like, "Okay, well now I want to accommodate that." So now the barkeep is like, he is this half giant, but he's like, "Oh yeah, that's absolutely. Did you want it in a pineapple or in a coconut, or what were you thinking? Do you want whipped cream on the top? Do you want a cherry? Like what are you thinking?" And so then like they're having the rest of their conversation. I'm like, as you're having this conversation in the background, you just hear the like sound of a blender as he's like making these pina coladas. But then they ended up being like, "Okay, well, do you have like recommendations on where we can stay?" And he was like, "Yeah, there's two places. There's the Bed Bug, which is just a tiny little place down by the docks. Like if you're looking for something cheap, that's a good place. There's also a bunkhouse in Midtown. If you want to go up to the North Quarter is where like the fancy stuff is. Like that has the purple popper if you wanted to stay there. And so they like went up to the purple popper, and I'm like describing they're seeing people going in and out, and they're all dressed very nicely, and they immediately have this revelation of like, oh, we're not dressed nicely. We're like soaking wet, we're covered in blood still, we're like wearing pirate clothes. And so they decided to go to like the like hot baths in the city and get like massages, and then they got like custom clothes tailored for them that are like these nice clothes so that they could go to the nice place and book a room. I was like, this is not what I anticipated. It's great though. I like those moments where the players just are like, we're just gonna like play around in this space is such a good time. But again, not what we're talking about.
No, but
I'm
it's
so
still
sorry to
good.
have gotten so off track.
I get absorbed too because I understand. It's one of those things that if you're talking to somebody that doesn't know TTRPGs, you can almost see like their eyes glaze over, or they're
Mhm.
like understand the main bullet points, but they don't get the nuance of it. But I'm like, I understand the journey that both they went through and what you had to go through to allow or to facilitate that happening. So no, I feel you.
Yeah.
Uh if we were gonna round back to tropes and things,
Yes, let's do it.
I'm very big on doing like I'm a fan of using modules and
Mhm.
things like that because I like to let something else create the skeleton so I can put the rest of my processing power into like whatever needs to happen in the moment, or
Mhm.
vibing with whatever the party is like wishing at that moment.
Mhm.
But my go-tos for when I have to create like that tension or that something where it's like give you ramp up that anxiety. I've
Yeah.
said the little offhanded comments like I said it the other day, like, "Oh, you're gonna open the door. Which hand do you use?" And it could be for something as innocuous as like opening a door to a shop. Nothing crazy, but like those little things where it's like,
If you
"Wait, why'd
give
you
them
say it like
something to
that?"
be worried about, they'll worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah. But like I love doing where I put the processing power on them. And if you half describe things
Mhm.
and use very general terms, you can have them fill in the blank because everybody can scare themselves more than you can scare them.
Yes.
And I mean that like you can jump scare somebody, you could say something truly terrifying, but like the fear of the unknown, like the unfamiliar, the unexplained, people people can, fill in the blank with their worst like nightmare there. So I like to do a lot of things where it's like if it's a good thing, it's like, oh, it tastes like dreams. It like this tastes like exactly what you think happiness tastes
Mhm.
like. And you're just like, what? And I was like, what do you think that is? Or what do you think your
Mhm.
guy think that is? Um, but it works the other way around where it's like it fills you with a dread that makes you not want to get out of bed in the morning. Like something like, you know, it just makes them go, what would make them feel that? Or without breaking immersion, phrasing it in a way where I know what would make me feel that, and I could now impart that feeling to the character. So it kind of like
Mhm.
sucks them in whether they wanted to or not. And once again, this all involves buy-in and knowing what your party wants. If people are trying to escape like depression and like
Right.
feeling bad feelings, like I don't like watching scary movies a lot, but I will read scary books.
Mhm.
Because if I'm going to be in control of negative feelings, I like to be in control. I don't want to watch a movie and get scared. But I can put down a book and walk away.
Yeah.
I want, if I'm watching a movie, I have to watch. I can't finish. I can't
Right.
not walk away from it, type of thing. Um, so it's a lot of like half describing, leaving things, leaving things like really two dice rolls, and
Mhm.
even then like setting the DC high for like if you need to know or want to find out that it has to be a high DC, and leaving that air of mystery type of thing. Because if your party trusts you,
Mhm.
they'll know it's not DM shenanigans and you're just trying to scare them. It's like you know, things get less scary when you find out more, and there's a way to. And
Right.
if you establish like you can get past this or find that out and learn this, but if you can't,
Yeah.
you can't,
Well,
and
and
you have to live with that.
there's a
You know what
level
I mean? You
of
have to then try.
like counterintuitiveness to it of like
Hmm.
there's a lot of GMs who feel like okay, well if I go over all of this stuff with my players ahead of time and like give them content warnings, right, of like these are the things that are going to be in my game, and then the player is going to know what's going to be in the game. So like how am I supposed to like scare them? Then they already know what's in there. um if you like, the point of a safety tool is so that you know what stuff is not okay to play with.
Hmm.
Because if you are using a safety tool, I had a GM once tell me that for their horror games they use twice the number of safety tools that they normally use for their regular games. Because if it's a for a safety tool, they need a very comprehensive list of what stuff isn't allowed to be used and what stuff is, because the stuff that is
That's
allowed to be
fair. Yep.
used you are then able to go hard on. So like somebody who is afraid of spiders and like genuinely doesn't like spiders isn't going to enjoy the game where you are like having a bunch of spiders in there all the time. They won't enjoy that. That's not a like, you're not creating a like whoo scary sort of environment for them. You're creating
Hmm.
a like I'm genuinely not having a good time environment. And but if you are like, okay, what don't you like? Spiders? Okay. Well, how do you feel about snakes? You don't have a problem with snakes? Okay, well that means that snakes are on the table. Cool. That means now I can use snakes in a way that is still scary, without it being something that is going to like
Traumatizing or anything like,
traumatize
yeah.
somebody. Like I'm not afraid of skeletons. But like if a skeleton is in a game, awesome. Like I'm not afraid of skeletons. If a skeleton jumps out at me right here, I'm going to react to it.
Hmm.
Like there is that level of like, if you are if you are using the things that the player is actually not okay with to elicit a response, that is that is a cheaper win than like a jump scare. A jump scare to me, I've said many times that a jump scare is to like horror what like somebody getting kicked in the balls is to comedy. Like yes, you
Mm.
elicited the reaction that you wanted, but it wasn't like you didn't earn it. It was a involuntary, like you triggered an immediate response sort of thing. The if you are putting those things out there for them to find and interact with, and they are not okay with them, and so you are tapping into their like real fear that they don't want to be interacting with in that game, you haven't earned that. That is not a successful use of the genre. You have just tapped into something that is like you knew was already going to be there. That's not a win. That is a violation of the trust that the player put in you. Um,
Have you ever used a jump scare in a game?
uh, I have. I do think that they're harder to like. It's harder to pull them off on like virtual games.
Hmm.
Um, in person games, absolutely. I've had somebody is sitting next to me and I can legitimately just like actually jump scare them of like have and something jumps out like like you can actually do that
Hmm.
in an in-person game. With an online game you have to be more creative with the way that it's done. I don't rely too heavily on jump scares just because I find them, what's the word I'm looking for?
I know that like one, yeah, I don't like there's difference between like scary fun as in like, oh, my heart rate is like building and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And there's difference between like the shock. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like so I agree with you on that. I definitely use it like the sparing kind of like almost like haunted house, like oh, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like
Yeah.
you got me like almost like fun type of thing.
Mhm.
The few times I know I've gotten away with it, like in person, it is much easier. But it's like I'm very good at switching switching between like vibes very quickly, so it's
Mhm.
something where it's just like everybody roll perception checks. All right, you got this, you got this, and like whichever one I know is gonna be like the lowest one or the one that's gonna be
Mhm.
the one that's just like okay, yeah, yeah, it's just like, and then something comes out, you know what I mean, just
Yeah.
that little
Yeah.
thing where it's just like they're like wait what, and so it's not necessarily like the scare of like fuck you scared me, it's more of like wait what, like huh, what's happening, the surprise, so it's more
Right.
of like surprise than like abject fear I'm
Yeah.
getting stabbed type of
Yeah.
thing. But
Well,
it's definitely
especially if
just
you
like
do
the
if
the
you
0 to 60.
yeah, especially if you're like like in the middle of like something else and then like
Yeah,
as you're like having this conversation like dexterity saving throw, arrow through the air like hits you in the shoulder, like you jump into all of that stuff. Like you can do that with combat too. Like there's a variety of different ways to like do that like immediate switch into like some other energy. I had a GM on an online game once who had like video filters that he could use
oh god,
and would jump scare by like we would be in the middle of
change
a
the
thing and he
yeah,
would change his video to like something jumps out and like along with like
mm,
the like scream like strike thing.
that's rough.
That was the most like annoyingly anxious I've ever been in a session where I was like I was on edge, but I wasn't on edge because the story was really intense. I wasn't on edge because the game was like building to something. I was only on edge because I was like, when is he gonna do it again?
That's
When
why I
is
don't
this
like
going
that's
to
why I don't
jump
like
back out?
yeah, that's why I don't like scary movies, because it's like for me it's like I don't like it when somebody's in control and can do like that, so it's
Mm-hmm.
just like I can't enjoy the thing because I'm just dread
Yeah,
for the like the other thing. And there's also the for like that, like in movies you can at least get the hint of music sometimes when there's a
sure.
music change, you can tell something's building. And if you want to ruin any media for yourself, if you listen to the music you can almost tell when something's going to happen
Mm-hmm.
because you can prepare yourself in the same way, like it follows it.
I
um
I I consistently curse the fact that like I when I was in high school and going into college and stuff like that, I was going for like theater. That was what I was gonna go for. I wanted to be an actor, and so like that was what a lot of my classes were geared towards. And so I've taken so many like media type classes of like dissecting the movies and like
mm,
really getting into the like the composition and all that sort of stuff. And it's one of those things where it's like if you asked me anything about those things, I don't remember them like consciously. They're not something that is in my head of like, oh yeah, well you see how he's like 3/4 of the screen is dedicated to this. Like I
mm-mm.
don't know that stuff in my head. But because I did spend all that time on it, that like section of my ADHD brain that just solves puzzles,
Just process,
it
yeah,
just
yeah.
processes all of that. It's just now like keys to use. And so there have been so many times where I'm like, oh, this is how that's gonna happen. It's gonna be this into that, and then this thing is gonna happen, and this thing,
Yeah.
and it's just like
My wife
pattern. It's
hates it because
pattern
I'm
recognition.
constantly yeah, I'm just constantly doing it. My wife
Yeah.
hates that thing. Uh,
We watched Doctor Sleep yesterday, which is
mhm,
the sequel to The Shining. And there's a scene in it where they're like standing in the hallway, like just having a conversation, and there's a bathroom in the shot behind them. And I'm like, oh, there's something in that tub. Like there's like they're going to turn around. There's gonna be a thing there. Like it that's just it's gonna happen. Or we'll be watching something, it'll be like something will get mentioned just sort of offhandedly in the like the first 15 minutes of the movie, and I'm like, well, that's gonna be
mhm.
really important later.
Oh,
Like
yeah. Oh, god,
I don't
yeah.
know how the fact that it's Wednesday the 13th is gonna be a big deal later, but like it's gonna come back up. Like, yeah, it's an ongoing thing. It's a constant struggle in my brain to like disassociate enough to really enjoy a movie.
Oh,
Um,
oh, yeah. Oh, same. Yeah, no,
yeah.
I totally feel that. Yeah. I've discovered something that when I had to like, when I did one that was more of like a horror setting campaign, it was my first time doing it.
Mhm.
I knew that it would be spooky settings or like, it would just be like, "Oh, these things," the it was gonna be a little, like, as far as, like, horror, what was happening, not necessarily, like, as graphic. I'm discovering in my life that there's so much that I just haven't had to articulate or had the opportunity to, like, try to convey in a certain way that, sometimes I get, lost in the sauce and then don't realize how good I'm doing something because I haven't practiced it or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, and I just remember the moment where someone was like a pact of like they were a mummy pact. I forgot which one it
Mhm.
was, the undying or the ancient or something like that.
Sure.
And they described their form of dread. And he's like, I'm gonna activate my form of dread. I was like, do you have what you want to look like? Or you want me to like he's like, no, go for it. And I described it and I just remember it being quiet and he goes and then just hearing the player go, I have chills right now.
Mhm.
Like I made them scare themselves
Mhm.
where if a player ever gives you like the opportunity to describe something for them, like it's a lot of trust,
Yeah.
because they're letting you do something on their behalf, and you like don't want to mince words and like
Mhm.
make it like, oh, you butcher them, and it's like, whoa, hold on, I
Right.
didn't go that far.
Right.
But if something where it's like he's like, I activate form of dread, no, go ahead, make it scary type of thing, and
Mhm.
I do it, then it's like I did it, but they did it.
Right.
So they still get the ownership of it's their thing, and then now they can describe it like that type of thing.
Mhm.
I've accidentally been to because I'm such a fan of like just saying like unnatural, unknown, and leaving things like I'll just describe something as wrong. Like, I'll be like, oh yeah,
You
there's
love that
this, that.
one.
Yeah, like I'll
Yeah.
do this, that, and then there's bagels, and I'll do quotes, and they're like, "Why do you do air quotes with bagels?" It's like they're wrong, and like, what do you mean? It's just like they're wrong.
Mhm.
And they're like, "What do you mean they're wrong?" And it's just like you pick it up and it's just, they're kind of bagel shaped and the outside's the right texture, but they're wrong. And then they get freaked out and
Yeah.
like something is unexplained. But I've accidentally shifted into like, you got to be careful because if you say a person or a thing,
Mhm.
then you're getting into like body horror
Right.
or
Yeah.
another
You have to
sensitive.
make sure that
So it's like,
your people are on board with stuff like that. Yeah.
and that like that's why like even if you don't outline or something like have an idea
Mhm.
or make sure you're with a comfortable group or something like that because it's very easy to because you aren't afraid of something or
Right.
because you think something isn't crazy uh to go into something and upset somebody else very quickly.
Mhm.
I know I have described something and there was no bugs in the campaign or something like
Mhm.
that, but the one instance there are bugs, it was young people, and the one person said like, we finished the camp, they finished the game, everything was fine. I was like, oh, we'll pick up next time with blank, and he was like, hey, just out of curiosity, are there going to be more like bees? Because I
Mhm.
actually, I'm really not cool with bees, and I felt terrible
Yeah.
because I didn't spend a lot of time on it, but it still like made that portion uncomfortable for them,
Yeah.
and they're, you know what I mean?
It's so
And
easy if you're not careful, it's so easy to
and
accidentally cross that line.
and
It's one of the
getting
reasons you wanna make sure you have a like, an ongoing safety tool where, like,
yeah.
there's something during a game so players have a way to voice it if there is an
It's
issue.
very hard sometimes with if like a friend brought somebody else in sometimes,
Mhm,
because you know, if it's like, oh, you always talk to somebody and you don't always talk to their girlfriend, they
mhm.
brought their, or if it's like younger people. With me, it's always really rough with when it's like a younger player,
Oh, yeah.
because if you do a certain checklist or something like that and you're like this that, and third, it's gonna almost, to the a parent I know would always think, when I worked at a library, if you try to just go like, oh, you know, you never know blank, they're going to jump to, oh, there's going to be murder in this game. And it's
Mhm.
like, well, no, but you know,
Right,
so it's like you have to be very careful with what you say, or just make it, all right, I'm not going to touch any of these because I don't
right.
want to like potentially trigger somebody or make somebody think this is what's going to be in there.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, stick to what it is. If you have like just, oh, I didn't really do any big crazy triggery safety tools, it's like, then make sure there's nothing that would have needed that, and have
Mhm.
an idea. Don't just go in guns a blazing like, oh, I can do whatever I want. I can handle it, or I can, like, it's very easy
It's
to
very
just
easy.
accidentally hurt somebody.
Do you have any, like, go-to, um bits feels like the wrong word when it comes to, like, horror, like, bits feels more comedy, but, like, yeah, bits. Do you have
Uh,
anything that are,
I
like, go-to
I
things that you
I
do for,
I do two
scary
things,
games?
and two things. One, it's easier when it's in person, but you can still do it when it's online.
Mhm.
The tone of your voice,
Yeah,
you know what I mean, going a little lower and speaking softer. So it's almost like, even if somebody has headphones, they have to like lean in a little
yeah.
bit. And there's something about the lean in moment, and if you're saying something menacing, it's like, so they lean in and they hear that and they almost wish, like, I wish I was further away.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I felt closer to that person, and now I don't like being that close to that person.
Mhm,
So somebody saying, like, when you said the thing, the line you said you wanted to say,
mhm.
I immediately imagined like, oh, there's this child in the middle of the street and we're trying to figure out this thing, and the kid's giving a recap and the kid just gets lower and says that line.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, oh, is this just a kid that is like an unfortunate victim of what's going on? Or are they a product of
Mhm.
something? You know what I mean? And I instantly was just like, this is the world you live in. And just imagine a kid going from talking like this, and yeah, and then everything started disappearing, and we don't know exactly what's going on, but this is the world you find yourself in. And then just
Mhm.
kind of like, whoa, what kid? Like, what? And that just instantly changes the vibe or the feeling of it.
Mhm.
And the other is, my favorite scary thing is showing how scary someone is without actually showing how
Mhm.
scary they are,
It's a very good
by
one.
letting other people react to that person. So I did it was a Lamortia campaign, and there was like an evil Willy Wonka Frankenstein individual, and
Mhm.
she was very menacing, just drinking tea, and she had captured two people
Mhm.
sneaking into her lab, and the party had captured them. When the party was witness to like this like interrogation, or just like her questioning these like intruders, I had those intruders, like, one of them was crying, and with insight checks, it was essentially the kind of crying like someone that knows they're going to die.
Ooh.
Uh, it was someone who just, they clenched their jaw and didn't want to speak because they knew it wouldn't do anything for them.
Mhm.
And the one thing that, this was a lost in the sauce moment, and I had a very trusting group, and it was something I don't think I'd ever do again. But it was, I had never played this type of menacing evil. It was my first time playing this type of evil, and it was, I had them go up to one of the characters, and it was like, it was an NPC, but the doctor, who's female, went up to the female like intruder, and said something like, it's okay as long as you both tell me like what it is, like, you know, you can work for me as well. And did like a creepy like played with like a tassel, like a loose strand of hair,
Mhm.
and then I had that intruder like break down.
Mhm.
And it was the creepiest power move of all they did was just like, "Oh, you have a loose hair."
Mhm.
But it was the the worst thing they could have did and made that person feel helpless.
Yeah.
And the whole time the like it was a more talky scene on my end,
Mhm.
but I can see the looks of the faces of my players absorb just how dangerous
Mhm.
this person is and how unassuming they are, and that like they don't have any armor, they don't have any weapons, they're drinking tea.
Mhm.
These two are talking with the devil.
Yeah.
That's how it felt like.
Yeah.
Um and after that I was like I understood the importance of like I could have hurt somebody with what I did. Like, you know, I mean it could
Yeah.
have been a very
Yeah.
like triggering experience. You know, and I realized like it was a matter of I had to be more self-aware of
Mhm.
safety tools and knowing, okay, this might have seemed innocuous to you at the time, but then that somebody else could have experienced that and felt powerless and just not good, you know? Um but it's the danger of when you get too into like a character, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
But letting the world like let the players know without actually having seeing the evidence of their carnage, you know, like a burned down village or something like that. It's just like, oh, this person ravaged the area. You can set a lot, you can inform the players a lot about the bad guy without actually ever them meeting them.
Mhm.
What about you? Do you have another one? Like music is fantastic.
Music is a big
Um,
one for me. Like the voice of the character is a big one.
mhm,
I am a big fan of like just kind of quiet like the sort of there's a desire to go big with like
mhm,
I want to make a villain, right? Like if you want to make a villain that is like, oh, that's a big scary villain, like yeah, absolutely. Like go like big and bad and monstrous. But if you're looking for like that thing that is just like creepy, then I find it easier to go in that sort of like soft like whispers sort of vibe to it. One of my villains who has been like in many of my games now because they ended up becoming something much more than they ever were meant to be, was a character named Mongrel, who started as this just like kind of side quest thing where he was going to be like a little mini boss type character, and he just kind of talked like this, and so he had kind of this little weird pattern that he would move his voice
oh
in,
yeah.
and it had sort of this like sing-songy quality to it. And the party hated him, but then they didn't end up like pursuing that, and they didn't like they pursued him just enough for them to be annoying to him, and then when something else came up, they went off to pursue that instead. And so he became kind of like obsessed with them, of like he considered them his nemesis, even though he was
Mm.
nothing to them anymore. And so he started like building up his stuff of like he had already encountered them once, he knew what to plan for, and he started like
You told
building stuff
as
up.
you were going about this, I remembered the he became they became his. Like I remember
Right.
you telling me about this.
They
Yeah, I
were
loved
his
it. Yeah.
nemesis, but he was nothing to them. And so every time he would pop back up, he was more warped and demented, and like he was replacing pieces of his body with like magic tech, and was like getting this more warped and monstrous as time went on. And so he just kept getting worse. But he's transcended that campaign into other things now, because he ended up becoming this like terrifying like thing that lurks in the dark and watches and like figures out who you are, figures out what your like where are your weak points, where are the gaps in the armor. Because like somebody you've only fought once doesn't know what that looks like. Somebody you've only
Correct.
that
Yeah.
is like that boss who's been at the end of the campaign and is just sitting there waiting for you to arrive,
Mhm.
hasn't interacted with you. He doesn't know that like, oh, this person has this ability, this person has this ability. But somebody who like has popped up a couple of times, somebody who has encountered you in different states,
They've learned.
somebody who
They
is
know.
like actively keeping tabs on you and watching. There
Mhm.
was one point in that campaign where they somebody got an item that allowed them to see invisibility, and they would activate it every once in a while just to like see if anything was invisible. And repeatedly when they would activate it, they would see like an orb just sort of like floating nearby, and they'd look at it and then it would disappear. And he's just scrying on them, he's just watching them constantly, just like taking notes, and like fully invested. And he became this like terrifying thing of just like, I sit in the shadows and I watch and wait for you to make a mistake, for you to trip up and come back to me. And like it just became
Oof.
this whole thing, that was never the intention behind the character, but like because the more he would show up, the more the rest of the party like hated him and like was like, this is a thing I don't like. And so the more he would show up, the more they would hate him, and the more they hated him, the more he would show up, and it just became this constant cycle. The other one for me is um things that seem to have like latched onto you and are just following.
Ooh.
Or like one of my parties had a sword that was like had a spirit attached to it, and so they would wake up in the middle of the night and feel like they were being watched. And like
Ooh. Oh, yeah, that
look
feeling of
around.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
The one time they were like on watch, and they were in this like abandoned like fort that they had found while they were traveling, and so they're like there, and he's on watch, and he's just kind of like patrolling the halls of this abandoned fort. And he hears footsteps behind him, and he turns around, and there's nothing there, and he hears them again, and it's just kind of like echoing down different sections of the hallway, and then he hears like his voice, just like echoing. He hears his name just said, whispered next to his ear. Like he like pulled out his sword, and he's like turning around, and I described, as the firelight like of your torch reflects in the blade, you just briefly see something just standing behind your shoulder. Like
Mm.
those things that are just in the shadows that are moving
And just
just
out
out of
like yeah, yeah.
yeah, just out of line of sight, where you don't know what it is, you don't know why it's following you. Like that's a horrible one.
Hmm.
um I had another one and I can't remember what it was. But yeah, there's a lot of different like ways to make something scary.
Hmm.
I think the thing that I always look for is like, okay, I want this thing to be scary. What is its natural state, and how do I make it not that? Just like a little
Hmm.
shift. So like a Strahd, right? Strahd to me is a scary villain because he is so powerful. But like the majority of the time I've seen Strahd interactions, he's very calm, collected. Like you're you're here to interact with me. Like why? Like what
That
is
one, yeah,
your
they show you early on, like, because you can encounter and meet and it just mess with Strahd very early on, but it's that similar of like, "You're I don't need to mess with you, you're
Mhm.
not," and then just going, like, making you feel small and I'm this much bigger type
Yeah.
of situation, yeah, and
There
that's yeah, it creates that type
there's
of
a
larger than life villain, yeah.
there's an NPC in my games named the Master, who is a Rakshasa.
Mm.
who has this shop that you can go into, and like you can request an audience with him, and if you go in there, he is like reclined in like pillows and just kind of sitting there drinking something or smoking something or something like that. And you walk in, and the whole time you interact, he's very calm. He's like, why are you here? What is it that you've come to me for? And why are you valuable to me? What makes you worth me investing that into?
Mm.
And there's just this like there's a level of discomfort that comes with knowing that like somebody is somebody is seeing you, like not just
Mm.
like they see you, but like they see you, and they are like looking at you in this sort of like scrutiny of, okay, well, here is
Scrutinizing is a good word. Like
here is the
like
stuff I
seeing you as
see.
one thing, but
Yeah,
picking you apart. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good way to put it.
of
Yeah.
like you are a like you are nothing more than a tool for me to use to progress my stuff. If me using the vast amounts of wealth and power I have at my disposal to give you some meaningless trinket
It
is
means nothing. Yeah.
that means nothing to me, ensures that I am able to use you to get something that I want, then like absolutely that's a deal I'm worth willing to take. That character at one point, a party went to him and was like they needed a wish in order to like
Mm.
reverse something, and so they had gone to him, and he was like, yeah, I can grant you a wish. You need to do something for me first. Another person came to me and requested a wish, and they needed it right away. I gave them a ring of 3 wishes. They used 2 of those wishes. They still have 1 on that ring. They were supposed to get something and bring it to me. They never did. They took that thing and they ran.
Mm.
If you go and eliminate that person, uh, you get the ring that has the wish on it for you. You're good to go. And then the item that they took to that they were supposed to bring back to me, bring that back to me, and then we'll talk.
Oof.
And like they had to go and like hunt down this person, and then the person's like, hey, I'm not the bad guy. Like I found out what this thing was, and it's like a very powerful thing that I don't think he should have. And like, yeah, I'm like in trouble now, but like you shouldn't bring this to him. And it became this whole thing of, but now you're like, now do you do it and bring it back to him, or do you and have like a potential ally in them, or do you like not do it and definitely have an enemy? Like
Mm.
how does that go? Because again, he's not going to like he won't dirty himself coming after you.
Correct. Yeah.
But he has endless resources. He just sent you to eliminate this guy. Like somebody else will come asking for something and he'll send them after you. And he has endless time. There's something so unsettling about a uh an enemy that seems like uh they have no reason to bargain with you. Like, here are my terms. Do you want them? No? Cool. I don't need to do anything for you. Um and like somebody who has just endless time and resources of like nothing that you do is going to affect me, but anything I do can affect you is such a terrifying position to be in.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, we're gonna have to go soon, but real quick before we head out,
Mhm.
I know we wanted to pitch a few like Halloween one shotty ideas.
Yeah.
There's always different variants of Strahd. There's Death House, which is like the small mini adventure in front of Curse of Strahd.
Mhm.
On D&D Beyond, there's a lot of little ones that they kind of like pitch. Don't Say Vecna was one of them. And my go-to for so many one shots is like if you think of any movie, you can just kind of take the plot of that and
Mhm.
make it into a one shot.
Mhm.
You could verbatim be the characters from it, or just take the idea and make the same
Oh,
main point.
100%. Yeah.
Uh, but real quick, like if you had to do like a log line for like 2 or 3 cents log line for a spooky premise for a one shot, what would be what's in your mind like right now? I think this would be real fun.
Oh, there's so many good options.
Mm-hmm.
So one that I wanted to run this year and unfortunately didn't get end up getting to end up running it on a stream. But the one that I wanted to do was uh like traveling storyteller had come to town and was like telling this like ghost story around the campfire during this festival. And as the sun sets and the full moon rises, people start seeing elements of that story begin happening. And it's just these ghost stories that were told around the fire that have been like conjured to life until the sun rises. And so it's this like survive the night sort of
Mm,
energy of like, uh, okay, there are like four different ghost stories that were told around the campfire last night. Each of them focuses on a specific thing. Those
mm,
four things have all come to life and are now like
mm.
here hunting the people that told the story
Oof.
until the sun rises because they like conjured them into being. um and I loved the concept of like having my players tell a ghost story in character and then taking whatever ghost story they told and making it be okay, this is now a thing that is going to hunt you until the morning. Like that's such a terrifying concept.
That's no, that's really good. I just know the one time I feel like this is something that can be done in any spooky setting.
Hmm.
If you give a bad guy that can like resurrect or anything like that. There was one time I ran a one shot and I think it was Death House, but it was literally like I told the people that were gonna play to make more than one character,
Hmm.
but under the guise of like, oh, we'll decide then which ones we want to play with. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Kind of like make more than one, bring everything, blah blah blah. But what I did was I gave everybody like I when they said, "Well, what are we doing?" It's like, "Oh no, you're a huge party," and then I let
Hmm.
everybody like bring both their
Play two
characters.
characters, yeah.
But then what I did was I picked my favorites, and then I had the bad guy in the very beginning. It was Strahd like take the floor out from all of them.
Hmm.
They all fell into abyss, and then I said who woke up. And then it was like a pretty spooky one shot, of like fighting dead things or caverns and spooky corridors. But the end was nightmare versions of the other characters, and it's just like you have to
That's
fight
awesome.
yourselves, you have
Yeah.
to fight the night. And some of them were like experienced and metagamed some good, like
Yeah, it had built
one was
some
like a
good
fighter with
characters.
crossbow expert,
Yeah.
and like oh yeah, I was like, ooh, I'm gonna use him to kill one of you type of thing. And it
Yeah.
was just the characters that they had made very challenging and good, I just used to kill them, and it was just like, can we do anything to undo it? And then it was
Hmm.
just like, they couldn't, and it was just, dreadful for them. It was bad that like I have to go against the thing I know I made deadly.
Hmm.
Um, it was, and that can be peppered in anywhere, so you can like kind of use that in anything.
Hmm.
I know I wanted to do a definite like my go-to's. I love the whole like go into this thing that's unexplained, and it's like almost like the like Netflix shows like The Haunting of Hill House, where it's like, oh, the more you find out, the less scary it gets,
Hmm.
but then at the end still getting like one more dose of scare.
Right. Yeah.
So like that ebb and flow of like, oh, you're finding out this, oh, it's this, it's less scary, the blah blah blah, and
Hmm.
then lulling them into that false sense of security.
I like that.
So what I'm saying is do a Haunting of Hill House one shot. Uh
I The other one that I really enjoy is always just a good like murder mystery. Like
Mhm.
it takes a lot of prep to like make it be good. But like you can go online and download like a murder mystery party like guide,
Oh, yeah.
and then just take
Yeah.
that and be like, okay, well, instead of assigning all of these different people to like the attendees of the like the party I'm throwing, instead these are all the NPCs, and I
That's
have
smart,
I
yeah.
have my outline of like what happened here.
That's
That's
smart, yeah.
that's always a fun one. Especially if you have just like everything starts going really really wrong.
Mhm.
Like if you have something start as like um I think I think it was Acquisitions Incorporated released a one shot a while back, that was like how not to host a dinner party or something like that.
I
Uh,
feel like I
that was
remember that.
that was
I think
a
so, yeah.
like a dinner party that like starts as just a dinner party, and you go to the dinner party, and it's a lot of fun, and then there's like things just start happening, and so there are like, oh, somebody's dead, and it's like all of this different stuff. I had one that I ran where it was a murder mystery party, but it was one where they didn't know that anybody had been murdered right away, until they found one of the bodies, uh and the person's whose body they found was still inside, and like was still at the party, like walking around and talking with them, and so it became this like, okay, well, that's not this person. Um,
Mhm.
and so it was like doppelgangers like killing off the people and then assuming their position, and then they were just gonna like disperse. That was a fun one. I enjoyed that a lot. Anytime there's a like, we don't know what's happening, and then they're like, you uncover a piece of information, they're like, we really don't know what's happening. Like that's a fun vibe for me. Uh, I like that.
So, you have your calls to action already. Run a spooky one shot. Tell us how you scared your friends, and then show us your Halloween costumes. Like, I think that was all covered.
Yeah, I
And
mean that
show us your
that's
capes.
that feels straight. Yeah.
Show us your capes. That's our new shirt.
Show me your
And show us your capes. So there you go. I have to cut out.
Mhm.
I hear my child basically like scratching at the door like a demon ready to devour my soul. By that I mean time and needing a cereal bar. But real quick before we go,
Yeah.
I just want to say something, Hunter. I appreciate your experience and your insight,
Oh, thanks, man.
because there's so many times I realize that I do, like I've said this a lot, I rely on like my experience, but I do so many things reflexively
Mhm.
and through intuition.
Mhm.
And there is such a stark contrast between doing that and doing things with intention
Mm.
and with like preparation.
Mhm.
And like I said, I've been bitten in the butt before where I'll like do something and then realize like I did that too well, or like I did this whatever and that
Mhm.
could have been good, but I, it could have been bad too, you type of thing. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So
Everything is
it's
learned through trial and error. So like
yeah, like
something
it
goes
wasn't
wrong
until
and then
start
you
playing that
learn how to avoid it going forward.
yeah, I did it for years at my other job, then didn't realize I was DMing secretly, like, by doing games of Werewolf, and then, just through start paying, I was just like, "What's a safety tool?" And, like,
Mhm.
"Why?" And then just going like, I heard somebody explain it, I think, yeah, it was somebody from Start Paying, something like, "They're like seat belts, you have them, you hope you don't need them, but you
Mhm.
have them," type of
Yeah.
thing. Um,
Always better to
so
have it
just,
and never need it than need it and not have it.
correct.
Yeah.
So just yeah, point of everything, just remember safety tools and consent, and you can be as spooky as you wanna, but just still, everybody's supposed to be having fun. Nobody's playing to feel like garbage.
Right.
And if that's the kind of game you're going, like, hey, I'm not kink shaming. If you want like to feel like I want you to make me feel like garbage, hey,
Yeah.
cool. But you signed up for that. Um, Real quick before we go, I
Yeah.
know we have some things we want to plug.
Yeah.
I know I want to plug. I am. the on the latest episode of Kill Every Monster, where it's a creature feature podcast, and they discuss different monsters from the Monster Manual. It's half discussion on the creature, then half like encounter,
Mhm.
mini actual play. Aram Bartian does like the sound design and like the editing, and it just, oh boy, if you want to listen to something and go like, oh, I don't want to hear them like look up the rules unless it's relevant or the dice rolls or math, he cuts all that out. And it's just a lot of good sound design. We discuss methods. So killeverymonster.com, you're going to see, I think it's on there. I know I linked it on my social media at Very Nerdy Dad, and it's on Kill Every Monster. And Hunter, do you want to talk about what we're doing tomorrow?
Yeah, we're gonna be going over to the Vokter tomorrow, and joining them for a one shot that they're running tomorrow night. So you can check them out. They're gonna be running a one shot for us, and some other people. I'm very excited. Get to play a Halloween scary one shot. Be very fun. So
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna do that tomorrow night. So go
We
check
teasing
check us
characters, or you
out.
want to
I'm
save that
I'm
for?
I'm down to tease characters. Sure. You wanna say what you're playing?
I'll let you go first, because yours is in line with the other, like, when you think of D&D fantasy TTRPGs, there's a certain level of like fantastical or awesome or epic
Yeah,
situations. So I just want
yeah.
you to set the
I'm
tone.
I'm I'm
So
I'm playing
what are you
just a
bringing?
really I'm just playing a really I should have played Ronio Manx. Damn it. You're right, Rosie. Where
You
were you
done
yesterday?
goofed. You
Um
done goofed.
the I should have. It's not too late. Mm,
Well,
I'll I'll
what are
con-
you leaning with?
I'll consider just changing it up and doing rodeo makes at the last minute. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
But currently, my character is those creatures that are like half horse, half person. And I'm playing one of those. He's a cleric. He's focused on like sickness and necrotic spells and healing and stuff like that. So he's the centaur for disease control. That's his character. I'm very excited to play him.
So yeah,
So
that
yeah, magic,
magical horseman,
epic. Yeah, he's a magic horseman.
epic magical horseman.
Yeah, the
I
centaur for disease control. Uh, I
I
I am now very tempted to just scrap that and play rodeo though, because
That's a solid,
it would be
that is a
so fun to
solid.
play as rodeo for a full one
If you
shot.
can, I don't think it'd be too hard to find a motivation, but like I know that for the motivation for mine, I don't want to give the plot away, but like an ingredient that could be in different foodstuffs is involved in some way, shape, or form. So I could not think of like a cook, and so because whenever it's like the bigger the scarier the situation, the more I want to lean into what's the opposite of that, a normal humany ass human.
Hmm.
So I
I will say,
uh,
for anybody who doesn't know, literally every time we have a conversation about what Junie should play in a game, it his go to is always, I want to be the most human that's ever humaned.
yeah, like it's just humany ass human. And so hey, I got a little one just showed up. It's right now. I am potentially going to be a uh, I say fry cook, but just a cook named Jerry,
Hmm.
a human named Jerry, not to be mistaken with our kobold intern. This one has a lot more going for him in that he has some backup support, and
Marketable
not gonna,
skills.
yeah, he whether or not I'm not gonna give away the focus or any like the secrets of it, but that it's a bard, um, and he would be he'd be doing some cool cooking things. But
Nice.
it's just an angry cook that is surly over some ingredients that he's been lacking.
Hmm.
Versus like dope fantasy characters. or Ronio Manx
We
if
will,
he's
yeah,
coming in here.
and I will either be playing the Centaur for disease control or Ronio Manx, depending on
I personally do like the Centaur for disease control because I almost want that to be how you prefer to be addressed.
yeah, it's his official title, yeah.
That it's just like I am the Centaur for disease control, and it's just like, hey, listen, Centaur for disease, like, you know, it's just like, what do we call you? It's like, you call me the Centaur for disease control.
Right. Is there like an
It's the full thing.
abbreviation or anything? No.
No,
No.
it must be the full thing.
And it's Dr.
Uh,
Centaur for disease control.
Doctor, it's just
I
like,
didn't
where'd you go
go
to
to all
medical
those years
school?
of medical school to not be addressed by my proper title.
Well, I was about to say, it's just like, oh, where'd you go to medical school? It's like, what's medical school? That would have been the fun alternative to that.
He has a doctorate in like English studies.
Yes, I clipped that. That's the final clip for the day.
Have a great
but-
rest of your week, everybody. Enjoy your Halloween tomorrow. If you have time in the evening, come swing by the Voctaires channel and hang out with us there. We'll put out a
What time? 8:30?
I think it's
I should know.
8:30. I should know
It's
that.
8:30.
I believe 8:30. If my
Mhm.
brain can be trusted, which it rarely can be. 8:30 p.m. EST, and I'm assuming that is the time that we are live, not the time that we need to be in the call. We should verify that though.
That's why 8 is the call. Yeah.
So yeah, come check that out tomorrow night.
The last clip was my kid. She hit that button. She's just hitting buttons on my stream deck. So before I start closing windows and opening emails,
have a great rest of
Hunter.
your week, everybody. We'll be back on Friday. Until then, remember to embrace the nonsense, enjoy your Halloween, and we'll see you then.
She clipped it again. She figured out the clip button.
Bye,
She
guys.
really likes the animation that makes. So